Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to work on IXL assignment 9CW, absolute value. All right, so let's quickly refresh our memory on what absolute value is. So absolute value is considered distance. So before we look at it on the number line, as you see pictured here, let's kind of talk about it real world. So if you're talking about distance, let's think about walking. Maybe you have, a watch or a Fitbit or something that tracks your steps. Well, every time you take a step, it's adding one to it. Does it matter whether you walk forwards or backwards? Yeah, no. If you walk forwards 2 steps, it's going to add 2 more steps. If you walk backwards 5 steps, it's not going to take those away because you walked backwards. You're still walking, you're still moving a distance. And so it's going to continue to add those 5 steps that you walked, even though you walked in a backwards direction. Same goes if we think about a car. Cars have little, odometers on them that track the mileage. If you have your car in drive and it goes forward, it's going to add to that mileage. Same is true if you go backwards. It doesn't matter if you put it in reverse and you go backwards, you're still moving that car. It's still adding to the mileage. So that's why with absolute value, your answers will always be positive. Or I should clarify and say whatever is within the absolute value, when you take the absolute value of that, it will result in a positive answer because you're just measuring distance. So if we kind of look at this first example here, this -3 is a distance. It is 3 units away from 0. So the absolute value of -3 is a +3 because when we talk about distance, it's positive measurements because it's just how far away it is. And then same is true for +4. It is 4 units away from 0. So the absolute value of +4 is simply a +4 because it is 4 units away. And that's true even when you have larger numbers, even if you have decimals or fractions, whatever you're taking the absolute value of, once you take the absolute value of it, it's going to be represented in a positive fashion because it is distance. All right, let's head on over to IXL now and put this into practice. All right, here we are on IXL, assignment 9CW, and the full name is Absolute Value in Integers, Word Problems. Remember that IXL has an awesome help video here that you can watch as well. So when you finish this, if you need to see some more examples, please check that out. All right, let's go ahead and begin. So in science class, Riley is measuring the temperature of different chemical mixtures. The temperatures of the 2 mixtures are shown in the table. So we have a bromine mixture at -4 degrees Celsius and an acetone mixture at 5 degrees Celsius. Which mixture's temperature is closer to 0? All right, one of the ways that you can do this is you can either draw or visualize a number line in your head. Since these numbers are pretty small, let's go ahead and do it with this one. So if we have a number line from 0, then we'd have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then on this side, we'd have -1, -2, -3, and -4. So one of the ways that you could do this is you can physically count and say, okay, well, -4 is 1, 2, 3, 4 units away from 0. And then 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units away from 0. Well, if we want to know the one that's closer to 0, that would be 4 because 4 is, a smaller number. It's less of a distance. Therefore, this 4 is closer to 0, and that matches with our bromine mixture. So that would be our answer. But another way to do this, or, a way to do it when the numbers are bigger, is to recognize that if we're trying to talk about how close things are to 0, that means we're talking about distance. And distance is how absolute value is measured. So if we want to know how far something away is, if we want to know the distance, we just need to look at the absolute value. So if we come up to our table here and we took the absolute value of 4, we'd see that it is positive 4 units away. And then if we take the absolute value of 5, that would be positive 5. So it's 5 units away. Once again, confirming 4 is closer to 0 than 5. Therefore, the bromine mixture is our answer. All right, next question. Haley likes watching the show Engineering Marvels. In last night's episode, the engineering team visited a tall skyscraper and a deep mine. The banner at the banner at the bottom of the screen showed the elevation of each location the team visited. So the top of the skyscraper was at 275 miles of elevation, and the bottom of the mine was at negative 260. So which location is closer to sea level? Well, sea level is considered 0 because you can have things that are above sea level, above 0, or below. So if we're talking about distance from sea level, we're talking about distance from 0 here. That means we can just find the absolute value of both of our numbers, and that will tell us which one is closer. So the absolute value of the skyscraper here would be a positive 275. And then the absolute value of the mine would be a positive 260. So which one of these numbers is closer to 0? Which one's closer to sea level? That would be our 260. So that means the bottom of the mine is the location that is closer to 0, is closer to sea level. All right, this one says Mark has 2 dogs, Sprinkles and Champ. He is concerned because Sprinkles keeps eating Champ's food. Mark asks their vet how much each dog's weight has changed since their last visit. So let's see, it looks like Sprinkles' weight changed by 5 ounces and Champ's by a negative 6 ounces. Well, if we want to know who's changed the most, again, we're going to think about that as distance because we had their starting point and then one changed by 5, one changed by negative 6. But if he just wants to know who changed the most, doesn't matter whether it was an increase or a decrease, just who changed the most, we want to take the absolute value. So the absolute value of a positive 5 is a positive 5. The absolute value of negative 6 is a positive 6. So who changed the most? Well, 6 is more than 5, so that means Champ's weight changed more. All right, when you get a little bit higher into the SMART score, it'll still be the same topic. You just may have more options to look at. So Scarlett and her family are going camping. Their map shows the elevations of these 3 sites where Scarlett and her family can set up camp. Sunrise Meadow, Cedar Valley, Granite Falls. We want to know whose elevation is farthest from sea level. Remember, sea level is another word for 0. So we're going to take the absolute value so we can compare these on an even playing field and see which one's the farthest. So the absolute value of 45 is 45. Absolute value of negative 60 is a positive 60. Absolute value of 50 is 50. So which one of these would be the farthest away from 0? You can kind of think of that number line. You have 0, then we'd have 45, 50, and 60. So 60 is the farthest away. So Cedar Valley is the campsite's elevation that is farthest away. All right, let's do one final example here together. So Mrs. Fermat just finished grading math tests. She wants to know how each student's score on the test compares to his or her score on the previous test. She gathers that information for 4 students in the table. So we have Kenneth, Deleuze, Leo, and Ginny. Whose student's test score changed the most? So again, it doesn't matter if it's not asking who increased the most or who decreased the most. We just want to know who changed the most. So we're going to look at this in terms of absolute value. So the absolute value of Kenneth's score would be a positive 10. For Dulce's, it is 6. For Leo, it is 12. And for Jenny, it is 4. So who changed the most? Well, that would be Leo because he changed by 12 points. So Leo is changed the most. All right. It is now your turn to work on this IXL assignment. I think that you can do it. Just my quick little reminders are to remember to take the absolute value. And then secondly, to read that question carefully. Make sure you're trying to figure out, is it the farthest? Is it the closest? Be careful when you're reading that to make sure that you can pick the right one. All right. Good luck on getting this. If you need anything, please email your teacher. Bye.